Hello, I'm Chris Brookmeyer.
I'm Melissa Hatesman.
Together we are Ambrose, Parry, and we're going to talk a wee bit about the art of dying. And we're going to start by, I'm going to start by reading the prologue. There is not a woman in this realm who does not understand what it is to be afraid. No, not even she who reigns over us, for she was not born sovereign. She was born a girl, and that is why I can be sure that even she has known the fear and the helplessness of being subject to man's dominion. Every woman has felt the fear that derives from her own weakness before men whose greater power derives from a stature that is not merely physical. Many men have held power over me. They were not great men. Oftentimes they were not even strong men. For in this world you need be neither of those things to exercise your will upon the weak and helpless, or at least upon those who have come to believe that they are weak and helpless. In my life I have learned much about treachery and deceit, but surely the cowardliest trick of all is that of persuading someone that they have no power when you know the opposite to be true. In order to survive, it is thus vital that a woman should learn to assuage her fear. She must recognise and harness her power, but this must be done with subtlety, without intimidation, without threat. It is the lot of remarkable women that the world will not know our names, that we might not take the true plaudits for our achievements, though they outstrip the deeds of men. We must exercise our power unseen. As women, we may not venture forth alone beyond the dusk, but I do not speak of time when I suggest that we must operate in the twilight. I speak of the interstices, the places in between darkness and light, the blind spots in men's vision. You wish to know how I could have done what I did, how I could have taken so many lives without arousing the merest suspicion. The answer lies within yourselves. It is easy to hide in the plain sight of those who do not consider your presence worthy of notice. That's how it begins. But how does Ambrose Parry begin?
I think when we're talking about the art of dying, you kind of have to look at it in the context of it being part of a series, I think, because the whole inspiration for the series started with 19th century medicine in Edinburgh and James Simpson and his life story, and we started weaving our plots in amongst all of that. So the whole series is a combination of real historical facts and characters and our fictional crime stories. So the first in the series, The Way of All Flesh, was set around 1847 when Simpson discovered the anaesthetic properties of chloroform. And this second book would move forward a few years and a few things have changed.
Yeah, the fun part for us has always been trying to take real historical events, real historical figures, and weave a drama around them, weave a crime narrative around them. And as we often say, the trouble is you can't invent chloroform twice. So with the art of dying, Marissa found some more of the real events that happened around Simpson, and in particular that he was, shortly after discovering chloroform, he was accused of being responsible for the death of a patient. And this was kind of how disputes were conducted in Edinburgh medicine at the time, that there was a lot of jealousy, a lot of backbiting, and so a number of doctors who were rivals of Simpson in a different way essentially conspired to smear him, didn't they?
They did. It was all rather unsavoury, wasn't it, really? It was, he operated on a patient who subsequently died, and all his professional rivals decided that the woman had died from hemorrhage, and there was all this speculation about a blood-stained mattress, and it turned out to be entirely untrue. So this was our starting point for the art of dying, where we decided that our fictional characters, Will Raven, who's Simpson's assistant now, and Sarah Fisher, who used to work for him as a housemaid, decided to kind of band together and clear his name. They felt he was wrongly accused and set out to prove that to be the case. And in the process, uncovered a series of unexplained deaths that led to some really quite horrifying conclusions.
Yeah, this is where we managed to combine this with another real historical character, not one who was operating in Edinburgh, but it was another true story from the 19th century. A woman called Jane Toppin, who was a nurse who managed to murder, well, nobody will ever know how many people she murdered. She was very good at getting away with it, and one of the reasons she got away with it, as suggested in the prologue, is nobody for a minute at that time would have believed a woman capable of these crimes, and especially a nurse who was regarded as a kind of angelic, nurturing figure in the home.
But so were all women, really. I think the whole the interesting surrounding contextual issues were the fact that women were considered to be too small-minded, weak, lacking in reasoning, so they were very rarely suspected of serious crimes. And I've read various papers suggesting that many women were probably guilty, particularly of poisoning, and were either never suspected or nothing could be proved, and are likely to have escaped detection.
So, indeed deadlier than the male.
Yes.
And that is the subtext really around which we constructed The Art of Dying. Thank you for listening.